Hi, I am Cheryl Sattler, and I'm an education advocate at Legal Services of North Florida in Tallahassee. I am thrilled today to be presenting with a former foster youth. And Kylo, why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I came into foster care when I was 6 years old. I lived in about 10 placements. I was adopted at 15, and on my 18th birthday, I became an unaccompanied homeless youth. Since then, I graduated from high school, obtained my AA with honors distinction, and next semester, I will graduate with my bachelor's of social work from Florida State University.
That is so exciting. I love it when youth have great success stories, and social work is a huge need. So let me just help our listeners for a second. I don't know if they're listeners or viewers. Uh, what do you mean by foster care? Because I think there's lots of ways to be in foster care, right?
Yes, there are. We mean an out of home care, which might be a group home, an adoptive home, a family foster home, kinship care, or non relative care. Former foster youth may have lived with someone without a foster care license. The one thing these all have in common is that they are involved with the Department of Children and Families. I lived in all kinds of these placements, including group homes, many foster homes, adoptive homes, and kinship care.
Yeah, all of those things become important. And that's kind of why we're talking about this law today. So you're here talking about this law because you're a member of a group called Florida's Youth Shine. Can you tell me about them?
Yes, thank you for asking. Florida Youth Shine is a group of youth advocates between the ages of 13 and 26. We all have current or former foster care or homelessness experience, and we use our lived experience to drive change in the child welfare system.
I've gotten to hang out a couple of times with the Florida Youth Shine group. You guys are really amazing. Um, so one of the things, and I think the last time I was with Florida Youth Shine was during a week when you guys were up in Tallahassee working on a different bill. So I wanted to ask you here as a Florida Youth Shine member because Florida Youth Shine was successful in getting the legislature to expand services for some kids once they leave foster care. And most of the time when we talk about foster care, we sort of think about what you said, right? You left at 18, but is that really right?
No, there isn't. There are services that youth who used to be in foster care can get after they turn 18. Aftercare is provided to help youth formerly from foster care reach self sufficiency. Unfortunately, I was not eligible because I was adopted at 15. Youth with experiences like mine still need this help. If I had been eligible, aftercare would have helped me bridge financial barriers or to have less of a struggle with academic barriers, food insecurity, or access to mental health care. It would have helped me to have a safety net for times when I make normal young adult mistakes. We decided to try to expand aftercare because there are some youth like myself who spent time in care but are not eligible because they weren't in a licensed foster care placement. They were either adopted, placed in relative care, or with a non relative. These youth find themselves in a gray area without these supports.
So, and the youth don't have anything to say about where they're placed, right? That's an agency decision. So basically, we've got a group of youth who are disadvantaged because of just random happenstance. So, what exactly is aftercare? I mean, I'm in a school setting a lot of times, and we talk about aftercare as like after school, but that's not what you mean.
Though there's a long list of services that are included in aftercare. We'll drop a link to the list in the chat, but they are the kinds of support that youth need to become adults. Things like mentoring or tutoring, mental health services, even life skills classes, and job and career skills training. One thing that's very important is emergency financial assistance. That could have kept me from becoming homeless.
I'm sorry that that happened to you, and that you didn't have that support. But I think it's amazing that you have helped to work to make sure other kids don't fall into that same trap. Uh, so it sounds like you've already told me this, but tell me again, why do you think expanding aftercare is so important?
I think it's important because while these services are already available to youth who age out in licensed placement, the assumption is that if you achieve permanency, it would always be that way and continue throughout your adulthood. But this is not always the case, and it wasn't the case for me.
That's true. I think we do think about permanency as the end, but it's not the end, it's the end right now. So let me talk about the specifics of the law for a minute, just to get all the technical stuff out there. So the new law expands what we've called aftercare to a lot more youth. And so, like Kylo has said, it now includes youth who are placed with relatives or non-relatives who were adopted, including those who were adopted before they turned 16, or who were put into guardianship, which is a complicated subject and one that we're not going to talk about today. So youth are now eligible between 18 and 23. And again, all of this is in a handout that we'll put in the chat. So if you're taking notes, don't worry about it. So if they were placed by court into out-of-home care for 6 months or more after they were 14, it's a magic line, and they turned 18 in foster care, they were adopted, they were placed into guardianship, or they were emancipated by a court before turning 18. So 14 is kind of an interesting age to start thinking about, what you want to be when you're a grown-up, but it's a really important protection that these youth have worked really hard to get into the law. And I think, Kylo, what I'm hearing you say is that the only real difference between you and these other youth who were in foster care is the age you were when you got adopted, right? You said you were adopted at 15. So I can certainly see why Florida Youth Shine wanted to make sure that these services were available to more youth. I mean, we want youth to find permanency, but it shouldn't be a negative. It shouldn't be less services. I can see that you're going great places. You're about to graduate from college, which is amazing for anybody. So is there anything else that you want to say to the youth who are watching this?
Yes, I would just want you to know that aftercare services exist and for them to know how to get access to it. And I want them to know that they deserve to have support and a safety net to help them reach self-sufficiency in adulthood.
That's a big goal, self-sufficiency in adulthood. I was just complaining today that adulting is hard, and I'm a little bit older than you. We'll also drop a link in the chat so people know where to go to find out more. Is there anything that you're planning next for Florida's Youth Shine?
Well, we're always working hard to figure out other ways that youth in care and those who are unhoused could have better support. On a statewide level, we are choosing our next legislative priority at our quarterly meeting in July, while also working on other priorities. We're excited to continue educating others on vital resources and sharing information.
I know that I was really impressed to see how much senators and representatives responded to you guys telling your stories in the Capitol. You're very powerful, and I'm really glad you're involved. Thank you so much for being here with us today and explaining this bill. I think it's going to be really helpful.
Thank you so much for having me.
For joining us today. My name is Charlotte Waters. I'm the Communications Director at Legal Services of North Florida. We hope you've learned some really great information. Legal Services of North Florida is a private nonprofit law firm, and we provide free civil legal help to eligible clients across North Florida. This video provides legal information and should not be considered legal advice. This video does not create an attorney-client relationship or substitute legal advice you've been given. You may have defenses that we haven't discussed here, so seeking out an attorney or legal help is always advisable. You can find more information about legal services at www.lsnf.org or more information about children's education rights and other things pertaining towards youth at lsnf.org/children. Thank you for joining.